Good afternoon, fellow Ghanaians. The Joy 20 team has gone through the 2019 budget. We would want to share with you with our views and the hope that this budget gives. But before that, you know that the whole nation is mourning. MP Emmanuel Tramartin Ajakun. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and all of them. From toil comes rest. For that matter, we wish that his soul will find a restful place. In the 2019 budget, there are a lot of hula balloons on it. It's basically because of the fact that the previous two budgets, the kind of euphoria that greeted these budgets and the kind of hopes and aspirations that a lot of people had, for which to some extent are not turned that way, unfortunately is having a great toll and effect on the 2019 budget, for which we think that it contains a lot. The promises of the 2019 budget, if the MPP government can even achieve 50% of that, I think that will be a very big push to our country. There's no need for me to go about turning out figures here and there. When we talk about GDP, how many of us do understand GDP? How many understand the fact that when it says that inflation has been reduced to now a single digit? People think that it will not increase. But where the previous inflation got to, it means that the rate at which it's increasing, that is not will be faster or slower. But the most important thing that I just want us, if we say that Ghana beyond 8, that presupposes that from thence we should ensure that we are able to meet the 100% of our budget. The 2019 budget. Let's look at the expenditure. We're talking about an expenditure of 73.4 billion Ghana cedis, which is equivalent to about 21.3% of our GDP. And then the revenue, unfortunately, is 58.9 billion, which is 17.1% of our GDP. And for that matter, in this budget again, we have about 14.5 billion budget deficit. And where are we going to get this money to in this era of Ghana beyond 8? That has been one of my major problems with this budget. It's a very good one and a practical one, where unfortunately we are expecting that our development partners or our foreigners should contribute of this deficit of about 9.6 billion and the remaining one from the local. And so it's not agreeing well if we were to augment and really carve out a Ghana beyond 8 budget, which should say that with this deficit, we have these programs within the year, especially rearing for food and job. We are expecting that it's going to rake in this amount of billion that can reduce the budget deficit, so that we'll find a means of financing the deficits by ourselves. But unfortunately, we don't have it. Why? Because we don't have a functional national identification system, which can actually enlighten us, which can enable our economy to be more visible, and we can scientifically predict our expenditure and our revenues. Unfortunately, we are not having it, and for that matter, we are still raking in the dark so far as this budget is concerned. It's up to the government to really explain to Ghanaians Ghana beyond 8 and with 14.5 budget deficit, which to me is not good. On the other hand, if you look at the 6 thematic areas that the government actually mentioned, you could see that about infrastructure, about agric modernization, about industrialization, about entrepreneurship, about improvement and efficiency of our tax and revenue system, and the social intervention. They are all good, and there are a lot of practical things. First and foremost, the rearing for food and jobs. if we say that we import about over $600 million, which when we want to convert it, you multiply it by 5. You know that we're talking about 3 billion Ghana cedis worth of poultry. Now, for practical means of tackling this problem, why can't the government pick about a third of this expenditure, or let's even use $150 million, get about 10 Ghanaians, give them this 150 million for them to invest in poultry, and let's see how that the kind of returns that we can get out of that. I was looking for practical programs like that. That is the only means that we can reduce our foreign exchange, because we know that the this importation as well as rice and things like that have a toll on our exchange rate, the cedi depreciation. And so there's the need for a practical means of addressing this issue. Mr. President, Finance Minister, the Economic Management Team, pick out this $150 million. If we spend $600 million importing poultry, in the first quarter, give this $150 million to about 10 Ghanaians. Ensure as a PPP and make sure that they will begin to produce poultry, for which from the second quarter onwards we can begin to rake in and reduce that. That is a practical means of supporting our own, and I think that the rearing for food and jobs is also equally good. And about industrialization, you could see that this budget has a lot of promises for Ghanaians. And one thing, and the government spent a lot about industrialization. Let's not think about industrialization as the factories alone. Now, one of the things that I want to say is that if the government says that about 79 industries from one district, one factory is about to be rolled out, if even this 79 alone, or let me put it 80 industry for the term of President Nana Addo, these 4 years, if 80 industries, then I'm happy. If the NPP cannot even add more, this 80 alone, since the Fourth Republic, if you had added 80 for the term of all the past administration, I'm sure by now 80 times 6, we know times 8 now, we should be having about 640 industries that could have generated a lot of jobs for our teeming youth. And so, to me, it's okay. The government was talking about, there are a lot of programs in there, but I just want us to dwell on the practical means to create employment and to create revenue for our people. That is what is important. We also observed that within the budget, the government was talking about the National Development Bank. And this National Development Bank, the budget is saying that it's in the process. They want to set up this bank. What again? We now even have the Ghana Consolidated Banks. Can't we turn these consolidated banks into that? We have NIB. Can't we turn it as a bank for industries and the industries and agriculture? We have AGB. Can't we turn this? Do we have to bring in another bank? I just can't understand it. I think that it's better for us to adapt one of these. Let's resource it and make sure that it has enough money. Just like what the government is doing with the consolidation. It's excellent. The best thing that has ever happened to this government is this consolidation happening in our banking sector. And that one I always doff off my hat for the governor, Addison of Bank of Ghana. He's doing so marvelous work. The kind of revolution that has plagued our banking industries is something that needs highly recommendation. On the other hand, we are also talking about the MASLOC, the Microfinance and Small Scale Loan Center. I am of the view that, to me, I will cancel this MASLOC because it has been a source and a feed for political apparatus. They give it to their party members and the rate of recovery is bad. That's why the fact that this budget is saying that it's been improved since 2017 to 85%. And now the government wants to put in over 200 million Ghana cedis And I'm of the view, I mean, let's be frank with ourselves. If we're to have a strong microfinance company, there must be another PPP. Let's look as the best point, despite small scale. This 200 million, if it were to be given to him, and then the government will have a program, they will know as to how to dispense this and make sure that there will be at least little interest on it, so that others can also benefit out of this. We need to look at the practical means of doing this. The same thing goes with rice, just like the poultry. We spend over $320 million in sugar. That one alone, what do we have to do? The same thing. Let us make sure that at the end of the day, this $320 million that we spend, and about $1 billion on rice, we need to import the rice feeders, the machines that are needed, so that at least this $1 billion that we import on rice, we can reduce it. There are a lot of things in the budget that I think is quite promising. And at this point in time, we want to encourage the government, and especially to take industrialization up to the level that all of us are looking at. And I'm pretty sure to recommend the government about the regional industrial park philosophy. It's an excellent thing that I think that the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Institute of Industrial Research, will be in a position to help the government to ensure that we roll the sustainable industrialization for Ghana. If we are able to achieve some of these points, just 50% of which Ghana will turn, and will begin to see the wealth creation in our budget. Thank you for the government.